Hold this in your hand for a second. It weighs almost nothing. It's a cheap, oval-shaped piece of aluminum or silver, maybe the size of a dime. You could lose it in your pocket and never notice. But in the invisible economy of the spiritual world, the world of principalities and powers, this tiny object is heavier than a tank. It is the only object in the history of the Catholic Church designed, detailed, and commissioned directly by the Virgin Mary herself. It's been called a bullet against the devil. It's been worn by paupers and popes, and the promise attached to it is so bold, so sweeping, that it almost sounds too good to be true. But to understand why millions of people refuse to take this off their necks, we have to look past the metal. We have to decode the message stamped into it. Because this isn't jewelry, it's a weapon. To really understand the weight of this object, we have to transport ourselves back to a moment of absolute terror. We are in Paris, France. The year is 1830. If you think the world feels chaotic now, it was nothing compared to the streets of Paris in 1830. The dust from the French Revolution hadn't even settled, and the city was on the brink of a new explosion. The July Revolution. The air smelled of gunpowder and fear. There was violence in the streets, political instability, and a fierce, rising hatred against the church. It was a time when the ground beneath your feet felt like it was constantly shifting. And right in the middle of this boiling pot, on a quiet side street called the Rue du Bac, there was a convent, the Sisters of Charity. Inside these walls lived a novice named Catherine Labouret. Now, Catherine was nobody famous. She was a 24-year-old farm girl from the countryside. She was uneducated. She was quiet. She was the person you would least expect the architecture of heaven to descend upon. But she had a backstory that set the stage for everything that was about to happen. When she was just 9 years old, her own mother died. In that crushing moment of grief, this little girl did something profound. She climbed up on a chair, reached for a statue of the Virgin Mary on the family shelf, kissed it, and whispered, "Now you will be my mother." That wasn't just a coping mechanism, it was a contract. Fast forward to the night of July 18th, 1830. It's late. The convent is silent. Catherine is asleep in her cell. Suddenly, at 11:30 p.m., she wakes up. She hears a voice, not a dream, but a voice in the room calling her name. "Sister Labouret! Sister Labouret!" She opens her eyes and sees a child, maybe 4 or 5 years old, glowing with an impossible, radiant light. The child says something that would make anyone's heart stop. "Come to the chapel. The Blessed Virgin is waiting for you." Catherine is terrified of getting caught. It's the middle of the night, but the child tells her, "Do not be anxious. Everyone is sleeping." So she gets dressed and follows this glowing child through the dark hallways of the convent. And here is the detail that gives me chills. Everywhere the child walked, the lamps in the hallway were lit. The darkness just rolled back. They arrive at the chapel, and the heavy doors swing open automatically. Inside, the candles are blazing as if it's midnight mass. Catherine kneels. She waits. And then she hears it. Not a trumpet, not a thunderclap, but a sound like the rustling of a silk dress. She looks up. And there, sitting in the priest's chair, is the Virgin Mary. This wasn't a static vision or a hallucination. Catherine ran to her. She knelt down and placed her hands in the Virgin's lap. She later said she could feel the physical reality of Mary's presence. For 2 hours, they talked. It was a mother preparing her child for war. Mary warned her about the blood that would spill in the streets of Paris, the sorrows coming to the world. But she pointed to the altar and said, "Come to the foot of this altar. Here, graces will be spread over all who ask for them." That was the preparation. The mission came 4 months later. On November 27th, Catherine is praying, and the vision returns. But this time it's a blueprint. She sees Mary standing on a globe, crushing a serpent beneath her heel. Rays of light are exploding from rings on Mary's fingers, drenching the earth below. Mary explains, "These rays represent the graces I shed upon those who ask for them." But Catherine notices something heartbreaking. Some of the gems on Mary's fingers are dark. They aren't shining. When Catherine asks why, Mary gives an answer that haunts me to this day. She says, "These are the graces for which souls forget to ask." Think about that. There is a reservoir of help, of peace, of miracles, sitting there, waiting to be poured out. But it stays locked up simply because we don't ask. We try to white-knuckle our way through life, while the help we need is literally hovering right above us. An oval frame formed around the vision with gold lettering. O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee. And then the command, have a medal struck upon this model. All those who wear it will receive great graces. They should wear it around the neck. Now, you have to understand the resistance here. Catherine didn't have a PR team. She was a novice. She went to her priest, Father Aladel, and he basically told her she was imagining things. He dismissed her. For 2 years, he refused to listen. But Catherine was relentless. Finally, worn down by her humility and the precision of her predictions, he went to the archbishop. They minted the first 1,500 medals in 1832. And this is where the history books get strange. At that exact moment, Paris was being decimated by a cholera epidemic. 20,000 people died. It was a plague. But as these little medals started circulating through the hospitals and the slums, the dying started recovering. The hopeless started converting. The protection was so obvious, so statistical, that the people of Paris, not the church, but the people, stopped calling it the Medal of the Immaculate Conception. They gave it a new name. They called it the Miraculous Medal. So, let's actually look at this thing. Let's decode the data compressed onto this medal. On the front, you have the theology of the battle. You see Mary standing on the globe. She is the queen. But look at her feet. She is standing on a snake. This is a direct callback to the very beginning of the Bible, Genesis 3:15. Where God promises that the woman's offspring will crush the serpent's head. It's a visual statement that evil has a limit, and that limit is the heel of the Mother of God. Now flip it over. The back of the medal is a masterpiece of symbolism. You see a large letter M interwoven with a cross. You cannot separate them. It shows that Mary's role is entirely wrapped up in the suffering and victory of Jesus. Below that, you have 2 hearts. One is surrounded by thorns, the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The other is pierced by a sword, the Immaculate Heart of Mary. It's a depiction of shared suffering. It's telling us that love, real, divine love, always involves sacrifice. And surrounding the whole thing are 12 stars, the symbol of the Church and the tribes of Israel. It is the entire history of salvation stamped onto a piece of silver. But here is the trap we have to avoid. It is very easy to look at this and think, oh, it's a lucky charm. It's a talisman. No, that is paganism. That is magic. This is Catholicism. There is a massive difference. The Miraculous Medal is a sacramental. Think of it like a wedding ring. A wedding ring doesn't have magical powers. If you take it off, you're still married. But the ring is a physical anchor for a spiritual reality. When you look at it, you remember your vow. When you touch it, you remember your love. The power isn't in the gold. The power is in the covenant the gold represents. The Miraculous Medal works the same way. It is an antenna. It tunes your soul to the frequency of grace. Mary promised that graces abound for those who wear it with confidence. That's the key variable. Confidence. It's not the medal that saves you. It's the faith that the medal awakens in you. And if you need proof that this isn't just a placebo effect, you need to hear the story of Alphonse Ratisbonne. Alphonse was the anti-Catherine. He was a wealthy, cynical banker. He was Jewish, and he didn't just dislike Catholicism. He hated it. His own brother had converted and become a priest, and Alphonse never forgave him. He considered the church a collection of superstitious nonsense. In 1842, Alphonse was in Rome, probably mocking the piety he saw around him. A Catholic friend, Baron de Bussière, challenged him. He said, "If you're so sure this is all garbage, wear this medal and say the prayer for a few days. What do you have to lose?" Alphonse laughed. He put it on just to prove how ridiculous it was. He said, "Ha! Now I am a Catholic," making a total joke of it. A few days later, he was waiting in a church in Rome for the Baron. He was just standing there, bored, looking at the art. Suddenly, the church vanished. The noise of the city disappeared. All the light in the building concentrated into one chapel, and standing on the altar was the Virgin Mary, living, breathing, and radiating light, exactly as she appears on the medal. She didn't speak. She just gestured for him to kneel. In that split second, the cynical banker died. The entire architecture of his mind was rewired. When the Baron found him, Alphonse was on the floor, weeping, clutching the medal, unable to speak except to say, I saw her, I saw her. He converted instantly. He became a priest. He spent the rest of his life serving the church he once hated. That is not the power of suggestion. That is the power of a mother reclaiming her child. So, what do we do with this? If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you feel like the world is chaotic, because it is, or if you feel like you have these dark gems in your life, graces you haven't claimed yet, maybe it's time to accept the offer. Get a medal. Have it blessed. Put it around your neck. Not as a fashion statement and not as a magic trick. Wear it as a shield. Wear it as a sign that you have recourse to a power higher than yourself. And say the prayer, O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee. There is a treasury of grace waiting. The door is unlocked. All you have to do is walk through it.